everybody, it's Katie, and today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up and maybe talk a little bit about my July TBR. In June, I finally got out of this stupid reading slump that I have been in since March, and I hunkered down and I read, and I did like a little reading vlog / for readathon that I just decided and went, hey, I'm gonna do this thing. Let's see how it goes. And it went pretty well, if I might say. Pretty dang well. I'm still behind on my Goodreads challenge upon filming this video, but hopefully not for long. I read 10 books in the month of June, and we're going to talk about those 10 books. So here we go. The first book that I read, I actually did a review for. I will leave a link to that review in the description below. And that is Queen of Hearts by Colleen Oakes. Here's a picture of the cover. I am showing you a picture of the cover and not the book itself because I had bought this book for a friend's birthday and I read the book before giving it to her and I gave it to her, so now she has it. That's why you have Queen of Hearts is a prequel retelling of Alice in Wonderland. It is about the formation of the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland. So, and we learn about the character's backstory, who the character is, possible love interests, who the Cheshire Cat is, who the Mad Hatter is, all of these things, and it was a really good book. I believe I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. The next book that I read, I have filmed a review for, I just haven't put it up yet. And that is Dead Set by Richard Carey. I was not sure what I was expecting when I started reading this book. I was thinking it would be more on the sci-fi, maybe fantasy, because it talks about following wolves that follow people, and normally when you think of wolves following you, stalking you, I don't know, I think fantasy. I was very much surprised when I got into it. It's more of a horror book, which I wasn't expecting. Yeah, a little bit of sci-fi, but definitely more on the horror side. I mean, we're talking not zombies, but dead people, and lizard people, and purgatory and hell, and just be aware. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. It was good. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. I did some research on the author afterwards, and he does tend to write a lot of horror stories, so I guess I shouldn't have been too surprised if I had done research on him previously. But I didn't. I had gotten this book for free at one of the RT conventions in the past few years. I just had never gotten around to reading it. Glad I did. The next book that I read was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I had never read the Percy Jackson series before, and I am now starting to go through and read these series. It was when I got the box set on a whim. It was on sale for like 20 bucks at Walmart when I got it, and I couldn't really pass up a sale like that. I mean, let's be real. I have a book buying problem. I'm not afraid to admit that. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. If you don't know, Percy is a child that has a troubled life, and through his troubled life, he finds out that he is the son of a god, a Greek god. And he is sent on a quest to kind of prove his worth, and anything more that I say along those lines is going to be a spoiler, so I won't spoil it. I had read only one other book by Rick Riordan, and that book was the Norse mythological book, the Sword of Summer. And when I read that and I saw just how it was written and how amusing it was, I knew that I just had to read the Percy Jackson books. That I read was Star Wars Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. I flew through this book. This book takes place during the original Star Wars trilogy, and it is told from the perspective of two on the dark side officers and how they grew up, why they joined the Imperial Army, how their story ends. It had amazing reviews on Goodreads, and as I read this entire 550-page book in one day, I knew why. The next book that I finished reading was Asgard Stories, Tales of Norse Mythology, and I have been slowly making my way through that book at night and in the morning. That is by Mel H. Cummings, and it was good. I liked learning about Norse mythology, and I liked what I was reading. It was cute, and it was good, and I learned a lot, and I recommend that if you want to learn more about Norse mythology, that's what you do. This book that I read is called Love Maybe by Heather Hepler, by Heather Hepler. And when I bought this book, I thought it was going to be a YA romance, but it was more of a YA chick lit. I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. I wanted a romance and I got a chick lit instead. In high school, and this girl Piper, her birthday is on Valentine's Day, and ironically she does not believe in love. So what happens to her to make her believe is love maybe. Not really going that detail into it because it just, I'll put out a review for it soon. Star Wars Aftermath, and by Chuck Wedding, and I gave it a 2 out of 5. It just did not capture my, it was an insanely easy read, and it was insanely quick. It just didn't capture my attention. There wasn't any action in it like you would expect from a Star Wars novel. It wasn't that good. If you're really bored, or if you have a lot of time to kill, go ahead, read it. But to get anything out of it, to further explain the acts that led up to The Force Awakens, it's not worth it. I listed them as 2 separate books because I ended up reading one, and then I read that Star Wars book, and then I came back and I read the other. But because it's in a binder, that is The Prince and the Guard by Kiera Cass. Basically Maxon and Aspen. And Maxon's story takes place at the beginning of the selection series when he's meeting all 35 girls and meets America, and you just see this whole action happen from his point of view, and it makes you fall in love with Maxon even more. And Aspen takes place at the end of, and The Guard takes place at the end of the selection series when he has this idea that America is going to be with him, and I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it's around that time, it's when, like, another, spoiler alert, rebel attack happened, the bad one. Finally, the last book that I read was Children of Odin, the Book of Northern Myths, and this is the mythological stories that are surrounded around the Children of Odin. So you were talking Thor, we're talking Balder, we're talking Loki, Tyr, Hodor, the gods along those lines. And this collection is by Patrick Collum, and it had a lot of repeat stories from the other Norse mythological book that I read. It expanded on a couple of them, and there was a couple new stories that I hadn't read before, so I really appreciated that. I gave that a 4 or 5 on Goodreads. It's all of the books that I have read in the month of June. So we're going to go into my TBR for July, and in comparison, it is nothing to what I just showed you guys, because I am so scared of putting myself back in a reading slump. So I am going to absolutely do a minimum of these books and hopefully do more. Also, I don't know exactly all that's going to play out. I am currently in the process of moving out of my apartment, and that I will do an update video of that information later. And first book that I am planning on reading in the month of July is Burned by Ellen Hopkins. It is a 500-page book, but it is told in verse. I think that this book will be quick and easy to read. I'm hoping so. I read this book a long time ago. I mean, we're talking 8 years ago, and I don't remember anything that happened in this book, so it'll be like I'm reading it for the first time. About a girl that is in a very religious and very abusive family, and she's looking to get out, and she kind of turns to a bunch of things that would be considered and deemed unhealthy, but she finds her way through it and works through it. And if happy ending? I don't know. And then the next book I want to read is also a reread, but again, I read this book like 7 years ago. I only remember a general bit about it, but that is Once Was Lost by Sarah Zarr. It's about a town's reaction to a girl that goes missing, and the main girl in this book is a PK, which is a pastor's kid if you don't know that term, and she's just kind of trying to absorb everything that's going on. The 2 books that I have set out, planned, for sure going to read in the month of July, and I hope that I have more for you. Follow me on my all of my social media. I'm on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Goodreads. I have a website and an email that you can contact me on there if you so choose. And insert creative outro here, and I will talk to you later. Bye. Queen of Hearts is a prequel retell. Why do I always get congested as soon as I start filming? Empirical. So I may not get these exactly in the right order, but they will be in here. And I'm going to try.